One of the great things about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is the way it lets you be anyone you want. You're free to choose any of the 10 races for your character, and there aren't any rules dictating what class you have to play. However, there are some combinations that are particularly powerful, and can give you a fast start towards driving back the forces of evil. For those looking to maximize their potential, these are our recommended race and class combinations. Each of the playable races comes with a mix of stat increases and decreases, and all have special perks and abilities that can have dramatic effects on what type of class they are best for. You can make any race into any character you want, but paying attention to what each does best is one of the best ways to ensure your character is the most capable version it can be. Note that each race can come from one of 2 different origins, which will affect some of their attributes. Bretons are natural spellcasters. They start off with a bonus to intelligence and willpower, and a penalty to agility, endurance, and either strength or speed, depending on which origin you choose. They have 50 additional magicka points, and permanent 50% resistance to magic. Their Dragonskin ability lets them cast a shield which boosts their armor rating once per day. The native citizens of Cyrodiil are the Imperials. Their perks are focused on charisma and diplomacy. Their personality, endurance, and strength traits are boosted at the expense of agility and either willpower or speed. Their Voice of the Emperor power allows them to cast Charm for 30 points once per day. They also have an ability called Star of the West, which allows them to absorb 100 points of fatigue once per day. Nords are the people of Skyrim. You may have heard of that place. They begin with increased strength and endurance, and decreased intelligence and personality as befits their warrior-focused archetype. The Western origin Nords have a slightly higher endurance boost, but suffer a hit to their willpower in exchange. They can cast Nordic Frost once per day to do 50 points of frost damage, and Woad to create a temporary shield on themselves. They are permanently resistant to 50% of frost damage. Redguards are natural warriors and adventurers. They have bonuses to strength and endurance, and penalties to intelligence, willpower, and, depending on origin, personality. At a glance, they are somewhat similar to the Nords. Where they differ is in their abilities. Redguards possess a natural 75% resistance to both poison and disease. They can all cast Adrenaline Rush once per day, which gives them 60 seconds of boosted agility, endurance, speed, strength, and healing. The Altmer, also known as High Elves, are the most gifted mages in Tamriel. They begin with a massive 100 additional points of magicka with which to cast spells, and increase intelligence, though that comes at the price of a decrease in strength and either endurance or speed depending on which origin you choose. They have a 75% resistance to disease. However, they also have a permanent 25% weakness to incoming fire, frost, and shock damage. The Bosmer are your classic forest elves. Their boosted agility and speed make them very nimble, but their diminished strength and willpower makes them physically weaker to start, and they suffer an additional penalty to either endurance or personality based on their origin. They have a 75% resistance to disease, and can cast Beast Tongue to command wild creatures once per day. Dunmer, also known as Dark Elves, are highly versatile. They have boosted speed and strength, but lower willpower. If you choose to be from Vardenfell, you gain extra endurance at the cost of personality, while mainland Dunmer suffer an endurance penalty instead. They are naturally gifted with both blades and destruction magic. Like the other elven races, they are 75% resistant to disease, and they can cast Ancestor Guardian once per day to summon an apparition to fight by their side. Orcs are the powerhouses of the elven races, with naturally high strength, willpower, and endurance, but lower agility, speed, personality, and, if they have the stronghold origin, intelligence. They have a natural 25% resistance to magic, and can go berserk once per day, which temporarily boosts health, strength, and fatigue. Argonians are a humanoid reptile people. They all have strength bonuses and penalties to endurance and personality. Those from Arnesia have additional agility and speed, but less willpower, while those from Thornmarsh have more intelligence. Every Argonian, regardless of origin, has 3 permanent perks: water breathing, immunity to poison, and 75% resistance to disease. The Khajiit are a cat people, complete with a cat-like boost to agility, though less starting willpower. Your origin can either grant you an increase in strength with a loss of endurance, or a boost to endurance and a decrease in strength. Khajiit can activate their Eye of the Night ability anytime for 30 seconds of night vision. They can also use their Eye of Fear ability once per day to demoralize enemies, possibly causing them to turn and run in fear. One of the great things about Oblivion is that you can make any race into any class you want. You can even construct custom classes, if that strikes your fancy. However, there are some really strong combinations you should consider if you are trying to make the best character possible. There are quite a few good options for combat classes, including the Nords, Imperials, and Dunmer. However, it's tough to match the massive combat boost that comes with the Redguard's Adrenaline Rush. Combine that with their high strength and endurance, and you've got a mighty warrior from the jump, particularly if you combine it with the Crusader class, which focuses on blade and heavy armor skills, with boosts to your strength and willpower attributes. Alternatively, orcs come with a very similar, though slightly smaller, increase to their strength, and while their berserking isn't quite as good as the Adrenaline Rush, they do possess a natural resistance to magic, which can be a big help dealing with wizards in Atronachs. An orc warrior specializing in blades or blunt weapons, augmented with additional strength and endurance, is a tough thing to beat. Two races stand head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to magic classes: Bretons and Altmer. Bretons are highly versatile and easy to use, with excellent intelligence and willpower to power spellcasting, and defense-focused abilities like permanent magic resistance and armor-boosting dragonskin ability. They are perfect for an all-around strong mage that can hang in any situation, and can function great as a hybrid combat magic class like a spell sword, where you can fry enemies and swing a sword equally, using your strong restoration powers and defensive abilities to keep in the fight. Altmer, meanwhile, are your classic min-max race. Like the Bretons, they too have a boosted intelligence stat, with double the bonus magicka, giving them by far the highest potential pool of spellcasting fuel in Oblivion. However, their weakness to fire, frost, and shock will frequently come into play, especially for excursions into the fiery realms of Oblivion. The solution is raw spellcasting power, and wiping out enemies immediately as a mage is a fantastic way to go. Mages excel at all types of magic, and come with additional intelligence and willpower to fuel it all. If you prefer the subtleties of stalking in shadows and plundering while unseen, then your best bet is to build around the Bosmer and the Khajiit. The extra agility of these classes directly affects your success with sneaking, lockpicking, and archery. The Bosmer start with higher base stats in marksman and sneak than other races, and their added speed is a nice bonus in pretty much any situation. As assassins, they are nearly peerless, able to take great advantage of their speed and marksmanship to hit powerful sneak attacks and keep enemies at range. The Khajiit don't have the speed boost, but they do have a high default acrobatics ability, which affects how high they can jump, and they can see in the dark. It's perfect if you are the sort that would rob a place by sneaking through upper windows at night. If only there were a word for that sort of thing. Stealth is their expertise, and they are perfectly suited to being thieves, able to plunder mansions and dungeons alike. Which class and race you choose is one of the important early decisions in Oblivion, but there are things you should be doing in the beginning that can really help make your adventures in Tamriel get off to a smooth start. You can find our guide to what to do first and more in our Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion wiki. For everything else, keep it locked to IGN.